All right, good morning, everybody. I just saw, literally 1 minute ago, the flat out craziest thing I may have ever seen. I can't have seen what I think I saw, but out this window right here, just literally 20 seconds ago, I saw a car driving by, and it was a slow driving, so I kind of turned around and noticed, and there was a dog running in front of it. So, big, huge, like Malamute type dog. So, either one of two things is going on. One, the dog ran away this morning and they're following the dog and they're just doing that. Or two, literal possibility here, uh, that the person is walking their dog by driving their car next to the dog. I mean, I actually think that's what was going on. I really do. This big, huge kind of Malamute type, big, huge Husky type. I think the person didn't want to go out in the cold. It's not that cold. It's 28 degrees out right now. And but that's cold. And so they're driving their car on the little circle we live on to walk their dog. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. I literally think that's what I just saw. Uh, there's two few things for you this morning. Jazz play tomorrow against Oklahoma City. Would love for you to come out and see you there. It's an 8:30 start. Oklahoma City's worth seeing. Hopefully we get a win. They're going to be tired. Then the Jazz have a fabulous ticket package available. Miami and LeBron comes on March 2nd. That should be on your bucket list to see LeBron in person. And that ticket package involves a ticket to the Washington game on the 17th, as well as the Detroit game on the 12th. It's a Monday night. Um, and that ticket package has all three of those together. So you kind of get them. You buy the Miami game, you basically get the other games all pretty much close to thrown in. So that's 325-2999 today to call the operators on that. I have a loaded amount of stuff. I last night around 10:30 did a awesome podcast with Kevin Pelton. I will launch that around noon today. So grab that for your drive home tomorrow or at work in the afternoon or tomorrow night at home. It's really good. It's our Mythbusters series where we either, similar to TV show, but we take a myth. Today's myth is whether offensive rebounding causes bad defense, and realize that some of the best coaches in the NBA, Doc Rivers, Rick Carlisle, Tom Thibodeau believes in it, but he doesn't do it because of his personnel, and Greg Popovich, some of the best coaches in the NBA, consciously do not offensive rebound because they think will hurt them defensively. And Kevin Pelton, the master from basketballprospectus.com, digs into this to prove whether it's true or not. It's really a great podcast. Then we talk the NBA. So it's good. Yesterday, I had a really interesting lunch, coffee, 10:30 meeting, whatever, lunch, coffee, with three other guys, one of which is just really one of the smartest people I know. The other two are into sports analytics, so numbers. One is a big, huge unstructured data guy. Instead of all these zeros and ones, he really studies the unstructured data. And then the fourth guy is into the NHL. And it was a fascinating discussion about where the field's going, what are the main things that analytics do, etc. One of the most there were so many interesting things. The two things that I think came up of where numbers really have value is one, players are vastly overvalued based on offensive performance. And even later in this podcast, I'm going to justify why Al Jefferson came back in the game the other night, but I'm going to do it totally based on offensive performance. But players, both in the NHL and the NBA, are completely overvalued in probably Major League Baseball by offensive performance. I always say this. It's probably not entirely true in hockey, but in basketball, there's never been a game that doesn't have the 90 defensive possessions to go with the 90 offensive possessions. And so that was really an interesting aspect of things. The second one I thought was very interesting is memories are people's problems. What you remember is a singular slice of a moment that is not actually always a collective understanding of what took place. Alec Burks, we remember reverse layups because they're highlights. Ronnie Price, remember dunks, but we don't see the other things. Uh, the other item was we just really talked about how in the NHL, I guess this is really true, that the NHL guy has broken down the hockey rink on the probability of where you can score from. That if you take a one-timer or a dump in or this or that, and how you can get probability done to score. And really, you can take like that leaves you with a .03 chance to score, and this leaves you with a .1 chance to score. And he says when you add them up, by the time you add them up to get a goal, you get a goal, like almost all the time. And it was fascinating that from hey, when the best goaltender in the game, once that adds up to 4, is probably only allowing 3, but otherwise, what pretty interesting that he says, most goaltenders are really very, very similar, and the separations is not great. I'm looking down at my notes if you're wondering. So anyway, it was really fascinating. We talked about 2 other aspects of a NBA game where the numbers don't match up to what we do. One that winding down on a 24-second shot clock, and we're outside on the perimeter. Everybody throws the ball up to try to hit the rim or do something. Fact is, it almost always leads to a fast break the other way. You're probably a lot better off just holding on to the ball, getting back defensively. The second one is, guy has a fast break. We always say, do you have numbers? I really believe, I don't have numbers to prove this, but we were discussing this. It actually should be the opposite. It shouldn't be do you have numbers. It's do you not have numbers. In other words, if it's 3-on-2, 2-on-1, we always keep going to the rim. But if it's 3-on-3, most guys turn back around and curl back out. I don't think that's right. Because if you were to play an NBA game that was 3-on-3, it'd be 140 to 138. Because the chances of scoring are better. So I really think that if you've got an offense where it's 3-on-3, if you got a fast break that's 3-on-3, 2-on-2, maybe even 4-on-4, you've got to run a quick hitter at that point. Anyway, there's a lot more. There's a play in the Super Bowl I want to research a little bit. I'll get back into that a little bit later in the week, maybe tomorrow. And then, the longest conversation we had was, I don't want to reveal too much, but it was about when someone's productivity on the floor drops. So for a hockey player, is it, inside of a line, or is it at the 20-minute mark where he's played, 20 different shifts, and that's where productivity starts to drop. It was a fascinating day. That's probably not what you necessarily tuned in for, but I thought I'd share that with you. Jazz yesterday signed DeMarre Carroll. People are missing the boat on this one. Why are we signing this guy instead of a shooter? Okay, first thing going on out there is that there are very, very few D-League players to go acquire. Huge amount of people went to Europe because of the lockout, so the depth is less good than it's been before. I don't think the Jazz are trying to sign DeMarre Carroll to fill a need. I think they like DeMarre Carroll. He was a first-round draft pick. Memphis took him right after we took Eric Maynor. We had a point guard need right then. We probably looked at him, liked him, saw him in Memphis. He fits some things we're interested in. Have traditionally played that type of player, Matt Harpring type actually, who's kind of a combo 3-4, better than most people have. And we like him. So we're looking at him. And you put him on the roster because if you wait 2 weeks, you might not be able to put him on the roster. Maybe we are thinking we're going to make a trade here at some point where C.J. Miles' expiring contract might be worth something, or Josh Howard's expiring contract might be worth something, or maybe there's a bigger deal in the works, or maybe it's not even in the works, but it might happen here at the trade deadline. And at that point, if you go try to find DeMarre Carroll, he's probably signed, so you're better off putting him on your roster now, paying that money, which is the minimum salary for only 40 games this year, so it's a few $100,000 rather than what it would be in another season. If you sign him to 2 10-day contracts, you're not saving a lot, so you're picking up a player. It's very good forward thinking, is really what it is more than trying to fill a need. Congratulations to Gordon Hayward. Gordon yesterday was named to the, I guess it's called Future Stars game now, but basically the freshman-sophomore game. It's a nice honor. It's a little disappointing. Favors didn't get more just disappointing. Favors isn't there yet for that. I mean, really, he should be. As a number 3 pick with his skill set, he's just got to assert himself to become that guy and show that fire a little bit more. We need to see that fire out of him. That confidence probably is what spurs that fire. Probably more minutes would help that, but that's hard to get right now. In the NBA elsewhere, it was interesting. The Clippers lose last night at Cleveland. This is a team that I put it up yesterday on my stat check. I try to get those for you a lot of the time, stat checks. And the stat check today, pretty interesting on was the differential that the Clippers are actually, they've been blown out a few times, so it's a little misleading. And then they go and lose in Cleveland, and they still aren't defending, and they still haven't won on the road. I think the Clippers are, without Chauncey, going to struggle to make the playoffs, which is, teams talking about them as top 4 in the West. I think that's an enormous blow to them. Miami lost last night to Orlando, which is a huge game. And then how about the Spurs? They won their 6th straight. Tony Parker had 37, which I think's got to put him on the All-Star team. And then the question is whether Steve Nash makes it as an alternate, and then whether Paul Millsap makes it over Nowitzki, Pau Gasol, probably Marc Gasol or Nene or Rudy Gay. I think it's going to be a tough task for Paul. That comes down today to make this All-Star team today. I can't see how that's going to add up. And let me do it again. Aldridge, Love, Westbrook make it with the starters. So then you have 4 extra spots. One of them is either Parker or Nash. Let's assume it's Parker after, I don't think the vote's already in, but after he drops 37. And then the other is Gasol or Nene. Somebody on Denver's got to make this team. So let's assume that's Nene. Now, your next group of guys is whether they get in or not. 2 of these have to get in. One's Nash, who I think there might be a level 38th birthday, just tribute to what he's doing in his career. Dirk, who says he's not an all-star, but and is not playing great. Pau Gasol, Marc Gasol, Rudy Gay, Paul Millsap. That's tough. Hopefully, it'd be great if Paul makes it. It'd be a great tribute to what he's accomplished and what he's done. 2 other Western Conference games last night of interest. Minnesota lost on the road last night. They've been playing a lot of games recently. They've been playing well, but they're now 13-13. The Mavericks looked fabulous in Denver. Denver's lost 4 in a row, and their number 1 home court team in the NBA. They are 7-6. In all of my projections this season, I never had Denver losing 6 games at home all year. And then the Rockets looked really good, beating Portland 103-96. That is a great win. Chase Budinger had 22 for the Rockets. So, again, we keep talking about whether the Jazz are going to make the playoffs. That is going to be a really tough road to hoe because a lot of those teams are playing well, and all indications are Wilson Chandler is going to re-sign with Denver, which is a huge pickup for him. All right, a lot of debate yesterday. PK and DJ on the morning show had a good conversation about it. Why does Al Jefferson come back in the game last night? What PK was saying is, hey, I want to have Cantor and Millsap in the game instead of Jefferson. And the reason Jefferson comes back in the game is that since 2009, Big Al is probably the number 1 guy in the NBA in the final 5 minutes of games field goal percentage. His final year in Minnesota, in final 5 minutes of a close game, he shoots 59%. It's really amazing. The year prior, he shoots 54%. Those are pretty stunning numbers, and I will look it up for you as we're speaking right here. I'm pretty certain that is the best there is in the NBA, and that's why you put him into the game. I mean, I think of guys that've probably taken 50 shots in that time period, he has to be really maybe the best there is. And I think that's why you put him back in the game. That's what he has been terrific at. And, we go to earlier, we talked about we overvalue guys who with offensive numbers, but I still think that and that's probably the truth, that we do overvalue some of those offensive numbers. But that's why you brought him back in the game, and that's why that number has usually worked in the league. If you take guys in clutch in the last 3 years, who have taken 60 shot attempts or so. Dwight Howard's taken 59, and he's at 66%. Boozer's actually at 61% in 94, having taken 94 shots in there. David Lee is at 55%, having taken 113. Blake Griffin kicks in there pretty well. And then Al Jefferson is about the fifth best in that time period. And if you look even back at last year, in the final 2 minutes of games, Al's even better. So that's really why he's got to go in there. Final things, we're running long here. I'm not going to get to lock tip-off questions. Kevin Ferguson sent one in, though, I want to get to. DeMarre Carroll signed. Does DeMarre Carroll, the inactive active list is different this year. Ferg reminded me to let you know. Everyone's active because of the lockout. They've changed the rule this year, so everyone's active. So your entire roster is ready to go on a given night, which makes adding that 14th player probably a little bit more valuable than it would be in some other circumstances for the Jazz. Final thing, and I'll dig into this more tomorrow. Actually, that'll be a lot of the work I do today. So I'll leave it at that. The few stories I got coming up for you, I'll do some more on Al and why he came back in the game. Numbers, why for your stat check today. I had an interesting conversation with Gordon Hayward about his upbringing and who he is, as well as Derek Favors and some retrospective things, and I'll post those conversations later today on Locked on Jazz. And we found a gold mine. When you guys see things like this, you got to let me know. But one of the listeners tipped me off to the website Volky or whatever it's called, where we basically can host an interaction. You send in your questions, and we'll try to do that upcoming as well. I got to find the right time to do it. That's a little complicated. I don't want to make it look like I'm competing with Bags and Parks and Spence and Scotty and those guys doing DJ and PK and doing their job. So I got to find the right time to be able to do that. Thanks a lot for tuning in to Tip Off. Have a good day. I got to go get the kids. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, please keep me up to date with things that you want to see on this program.